517 to scanner control. 517 to scanner control.
This is the Star Wars Squadrons podcast, episode 9. It's February 12th right now, and I'm your host, Timebomb. With me every week, our other host of the podcast, Green Fox Leader. How you doing?
What up, dog? 2021, big kicking it.
Yeah, man, we've been in 2021 a minute. I'm almost used to it, but then it throws me another curveball. This week, we're gonna talk to someone who I've been watching his videos for the last few months. I feel like he's just kind of been blowing up on YouTube all year, just making great content. He's such a good dude. So happy to have him on here. Meaty Yogurt, welcome to the podcast, buddy.
Yeah.
What's up, gentlemen? Thank you so much for inviting me here. It's really awesome to be here today.
Oh man, great
Big
to have
meeting.
you here, man. I just wanted to, we just did the Orange Invitational together, and I'm a fan of your content.
That was a
so
blast.
Wanted to have you on here this week, man, to just talk about Squadrons, your kind of journey this year, and as well talk about the state of the game. There's been stuff going on this week I think we can kind of get into as well. So first of all, why don't you tell us about your channel this year and how you kind of got into Squadrons?
So, as soon as Star Wars Squadrons was released, announced rather, I was incredibly excited. I was a huge fan of the Starfighter Assault mode from Battlefront 2, and it always kind of made me sad that mode never got any updates. I gave it like the one update, and then it saw no kind of love for the other, 3 years worth of love they gave to that game, and it always made me sad. And then as soon as that game got announced, I was incredibly excited. I had been doing a lot of Apex Legends content for like the last about year and a half. But to be honest, once Star Wars Squadrons had released, that content had been dying down. My views had gone way down. I was like, well, let me start diversifying my content. I'm going to sink a lot more time into this Star Wars Squadrons game that just released. And I thought of what the community might need to get better, different kind of loadouts and tips and tricks and tactics, especially that game releasing before the holiday season. I wanted to put out as much as I could for all the new players that were going to be jumping on in the next few months. And that's where the channel honestly blew up from that. It was pretty amazing. I had gotten to 1,000 subscribers in September. All of my Apex Legends content took me about a year and a half to get there. And then I started making Squadrons content, and right now, at this moment, I'm sitting just shy of 2,700 subscribers. So I gained about 1,700 subscribers from making Star Wars Squadrons content. It's been really incredible response from the community. I can't be thankful enough for the love and support that I've gotten from this amazing community and all the people that love this game.
Yeah, I really like it. Your content is a mix too, because you know it's something for new players, and there's something for more experienced players. Like kind of all skill ranges can kind of get something from it. I think too. A lot of people too, when they're playing this game, maybe they're having trouble. They're gonna go to Reddit. They're gonna go to YouTube, and I think you've made a lot of videos that really can help people kind of transition to that next level. What's your thought process when you're making a video? What inspires you to make your content?
My own big realizations. And then I also, own big realizations, let's stick on that point, from watching pro players. There was one day I decided to sit down, I've been hearing a lot about this Scalp Walker guy. He's supposed to be really good. He's streaming on Twitch. Let me go watch him. And then I watched the way he drifts around the map, and it just unlocked a realization in my brain for, the level of movement that could be possible. And so I started to practice that, and I tried to share that. And I guess that was the big thing, is every little realization that I came across in the game, I wanted to share with the community. On the same level, I've always loved to be a jack of all trades and try all the things. And so I basically went through all of the fighters and tried to find a good loadout for each of the different starfighters that would help people succeed, because there's definitely loadouts that you can make that are not so great, and loadouts that you can make that are objectively better.
And you know what? I think that's kind of a problem earlier in the game. some of the bigger videos out there that are about loadouts. I know sometimes me and like Orange, we like look over them and be like, this is how people are running. You're telling people to run a tie bomber like this in November? Like no, not anymore.
Yeah.
Like some could be a little delayed. You always
and
your content was always much more on point. One, like I told you before, I think it was like late November. The first video that we saw is when you were like, hey, I just played these guys and they were just all using turrets. It was turret mines, rocket turrets everywhere, and we were like, oh, Drake Battle Smoke. We've played that.
The
we
entire
knew.
squad. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and that's a strat that people were just running in this, like, to just stomp teams in the solo queue basically, and a lot of teams would get beat by that, and you were just
basically.
And I just love that you put. So tell me about how did a video like that come across? Was it just from you playing and you seeing that team, or how did you make that like video?
Yeah, essentially, I ran into it twice within a week, and it pissed me off. So I was like, God, I gotta say something about this. This isn't right. And I guess that was like that's where my inspiration is sporadic. I feel like I have a hard time planning very much further than a week in advance, to be totally honest. Like, I'm very ADHD. I'm not necessarily diagnosed, but I feel like that. And my brain is all over the place, always kind of coming up with different ideas. So I just kind of roll up with a couple in the chamber, shoot those ones out, and then try to come up with a few other ones. Like, it's just kind of like this constant, like, okay, I've done a few, it's hard to describe. I always have these, and I guess that's why I like YouTube and making YouTube content, is it enables me to take an idea out of my head, throw it out there, and move on to the next one.
Yeah, there you go.
And did you have any background in flight games in the past? Flight sim? Did you play any games like that before Squadrons? Or you said the Battlefront, you were in there in that one as well?
I play that one a lot. I wasn't necessarily huge into flight sim games. I did like them. Like I played like the Tom Clancy Hawks games. Those were pretty awesome. I didn't have like some of the other systems that allowed me to play the old school Star Wars games, like your old school Battlefronts, your Rogue Squadrons. I never got to play those because I didn't have those consoles. But I do still have this just like the flying. I guess going back to like the pod racer game, that feeling of you're going super fast and dodging past all the obstacles. There's just nothing quite like it. Just that feeling of flying is unmatched, and that's what drew me to this game. Was that it felt so awesome in Starfighter Assault, and the fact that they were promising to deliver so much more with this game was what drew me to it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm similar. I didn't play any flight games. I mean, I'm just basically like the Star Wars or Rogue Squadron. I played that one. Just some very minimal flight games. So this was my first one too. Just jumping in, and I just love it. Did you have any background in Star Wars games? You said the pod racing game. Are you a Star Wars fan? Like, are you a lore guy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a huge lore guy. Like, I'm not necessarily into a bunch of the extended universe, like comics and novels and stuff, but I definitely was introduced to the movies at a young age and watched the heck out of the originals. And then the trilogy, the prequels came out when I was, like 10, 11 when those first started coming out. And so those were some, like, formative year movies for me, watching all that stuff come out and, let's try spinning. That's a good trick, that kind of stuff. Like, so definitely a huge Star Wars fan. It was awesome for me to grow up and have the sequel trilogy to be able to share that with my kids and have them now love Star Wars.
And so,
like,
and some
Mandalorian came out. Kids love that too.
I'd love to see a Mandalorian game come out in the future. That'd be amazing. The thing I would had hopes for maybe the game possibly getting new ships like that, but obviously that's kind of too far a hope. I don't know if you saw, there was a post today on the Reddit. Charlemagne had said that the only thing that they're doing is going to be balance changes coming up in the future. There's not going to be any different ships or modes or anything like that.
Dang.
But
well, there goes there goes that YouTube video I just made. I'm terrible about looking on Reddit.
That was like just like one comment though. Like it was like honestly, it wasn't a post about it or anything like that. It was just one comment I saw highlighted just to let us know. So
it could have been similar to back in the summertime when it was all they would say was, at this time we have no plans to implement blah 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 blah. Right?
That is effectively what they said. Yeah.
That's what, but then we got custom matches like 2 months later, right?
That's
and
true.
then we got new ships, new maps 2 months later. So just because Charlemagne says we're not promising anything right now doesn't mean very much. Plus, EA, this is theoretically one of the last Star Wars games that EA made, right?
Well, but they're still going to make EA games. They just don't have the exclusive license anymore. That's the difference,
Yeah,
right?
so that other people will now be
That's
able
the
to
kicker.
start making Star Wars games in addition to EA making their games.
And this isn't just in.
Interesting.
This isn't just. This is a bigger thing, really, because EA has had the exclusive license to the NFL, like the Madden games in the US, for example.
Yeah.
And they've lost that
Gross.
exclusive license too, right? So
Yeah.
Goodness.
I
Thank
think it's a broader scope of like the gaming world now. Is that I don't think companies are going to get as many exclusive licenses. I don't think EA is going to have exclusive licenses like they did. I think there's different companies are seeing it's beneficial to have different games being made rather than one company making a game.
True.
It's a cycle kind of thing. We went through a cycle of like big companies like owning everything, doing everything, and then we went through a cycle of more independent stuff, and now we're like went back through a cycle of like big stuff, and now we're going back through a cycle of spreading the wealth around. And I think it's nice that like guys like go over at Respawn. The Respawn people got their chance with the Jedi Fallen Order game, which was incredible considering those guys have only ever made first-person shooters. Like they came out here and made this amazing third-person action adventure lightsaber game. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
In my experience as a gamer, AAA games, indie games, whatever. I've seen so many games come out, and Motive is a small team. It's like this is my favorite game of the decade. I think I've decided, and that's a small team. The team doesn't make the game necessarily. I mean, they have the resources, they have the potential to make a better game, but there's so much more into making a good game than just throwing money at it and having a game come. Look how many games come out now, and it takes a week, 2 weeks, a month before it's actually playable because they come out in basically beta.
Goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Squadrons.
Like this game was at least playable at launch. Like that. I gotta say there was some issues, but they did like Bomber. Obviously, Timebomb was ridiculous.
I think the biggest issue at launch, and what probably lost a lot of people, unfortunately, is the matchmaking problem. Not matchmaking, sorry. The rank problems, how it was glitched out, so everyone started at the lowest point, and there was some VR problems, and there was some HOTAS problems. So it did take a week or two to get this stuff, and I think it did kind of lose some of the potential player base because of that.
And my hope for this game is that they are secretly deciding to put some extra content in here on an occasional basis, because this is an amazing game, and it would be so sad to see it slowly fade away just because it's such a niche game and there hasn't been a second wave of excitement for it. Like, I think the holidays was amazing with all the new content we got in November and December. We need another run of that. I think there's some maps in single player that you could take into fleet battle modes. In particular, I just replayed the campaign because I wanted to take a look at all that stuff and see. Two things that I think could be really awesome that I don't think would be huge to change was that, like, first maps to bring in from the campaign. Like, one of my favorites was Mission 8. There's this Imperial battle station that you have to protect. It's just like the Fondor shipyard from Starfighter Assault in Battlefront 2. I want that map in Fleet Battles.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, a second idea that would be awesome and I think would drive a little bit more engagement, maybe get a little bit more casual play into the game, is I had this idea of limited time game mode rotation, where it's getting to replay certain sections of the campaign with your whole 5-man squad.
Oh.
Instead of actually playing with those other guys, you get to actually play the campaign missions with your whole 5-man squad, and maybe you get some glory for the competing the objectives in a certain amount of time, or doing a certain good, like if you have to protect one of those battle stations, having a certain amount of health left gives you this much glory, or completing the mission in a certain amount of time gives you this much glory, and that way. But people have a casual, entertaining thing that they can play that's outside of the sweatiness of ranked mode.
You know what's one of the biggest carrots for people I've noticed of anything? You say give them glory? Sure, give them glory, but what they really want is nifty helmets.
Trinkets and helmets.
Helmets specifically. People want these like if there's a cool helmet, people want that more. People want different helmets for their Twi'leks. People want different helmets for their whatever.
Oh yeah, the Twi'lek helmets. My own Twi'leks.
Can't the Twi'leks get some love? They look weird on, but that's something I see. I think that's a great idea. First of all, having some sort of mode like that, and also I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast, but we're talking about sort of like limited time content. This game needs to be free and have like a battle pass. I don't know, like
I like something like that. I agree.
And maybe it's not possible for this game, but if they ever do a Squadrons 2 or something, I think that's how that's what they need. I don't know. I feel like they need to just lay out a game like that. They need to have like bring in from someone in like a Warzone, Fortnite, like free game model almost, to bring in that kind of a strategy for it to help. They need to both bring in new players and also, train these players properly. Those are the two ways that the game has kind of not been. The game itself doesn't teach you how to be good in this game, and the game, which is a place where Meaty Yogurt kind of comes in, and content creators are kind of letting people know, which is it's good, but it can be tough sometimes for people to find that stuff.
There's still such a high skill ceiling too, where like even people who are higher levels than me, I'm seeing, who've been playing the game for longer than me, have more hours than me, don't understand how to do things like dead drifting. They're like, "How are you flying backwards? I don't understand that."
I mean, yeah, like you were saying earlier, like the community itself like gets a lot of this knowledge out there. This community is pretty good at not, creating a knowledge gap for the most part. You just have to go to competitive squadrons, you just have to watch videos, the information's there, but then you also have to put in the time learning, and people might not, most people, I can be guilty of this too. I want to learn through playing the game online, but you gotta go to the privates, you gotta like just work on people, and you also kind of need someone else to watch you to be like, to see that you're doing it right and stuff too. Like it's almost not enough to just do it. And see, for me anyway, I need someone to really watch over me and help me out. Maybe you guys are like, Timebomb, come on, get
no, and that's where I am a person that absorbs knowledge like that, where I can watch somebody do a thing. Like that's where I saw I figured out dead drifting was by watching like Scalp Waka and Fenkar play, and I was like, oh, that's what is going on. Okay. Let me practice this. And it took me a while to get it. And then taking other people's suggestions, like in terms of, in particular, like on controllers, switching your boost from your stick to your trigger is game changing. And just these little things, as you start to pick up these things, you start to find yourself at a feeling like you're playing a completely different game.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think so. Especially the switching, the mapping of the controller. That's so important. The other thing I kind of want to talk about is you were talking about the growth of the game there, and that's kind of been an issue lately. I've seen that more people talking about it, being really worried about the Steam charts. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it sucks to see those Steam charts being at all-time lows, but it's important to remember that this game sold 1.1 million digital copies in October. Steam charts maxed out
I agree.
at 35,000. So, I mean, that's not all the Steam sales. But what I'm saying is Steam sales, I think, are somewhere, let's say they're 250,000. They're a quarter of those total sales. That if they're bottoming out at 200, that doesn't mean that the rest of those consoles. First of all, there's also like 6 different places. There's Xbox, there's Xbox S, there's PS4, there's PS5, there's Origin, there's Epic Store. There's all these different ways to play these games. So let's multiply that by 5 to 10 somewhere. So you're looking at really more of a 1 to 2,000 low, maybe. I mean, approximately, and upwards of 10,000 highs, maybe 5 to 10,000 highs. You know, the game is not 200 people on Steam. That's the important thing to remember there. Now the game is low. It's dying. No, it's not dying. It's people will say it's dying. It may be dying. It's on a downward trajectory, but it's not over yet, and there's lots of life left in this game, actually, I should say. This game is middle-aged early, but it's middle-aged right now.
We need, or what would make it better is a teaser or tidbit from the devs of some kind. Like, we haven't heard from these guys, but to fix dead drifting, which was great. Thank you for fixing the aim assist around dead drifting. You know, that's awesome. That makes the game so much better. Feels even now. Even though defenders are still hard to hit, they're not like impossible.
Yeah.
There's strategies, different ion strategies that people can use to try to mitigate them, for sure.
But we haven't heard from the devs, like, as far as an actual update since December, you know?
Well, yeah, like I said, they just made that comment, but they need to make a post, a tweet, a little infographic, anything to just, like, let people kind of know. You're right, like, it's not enough right now, and what it adds to the game and to the excitement for the player base when they do make an announcement, even just being like, hey, this is going to happen if it's February, it's going to happen on February 18th, whatever it is, 2 weeks away, like, just letting people know you're totally right, that would make all the difference. However, something that happened today is that there's been, I think, 2 stealth server nerfs. One has been confirmed that the A-Wing has been nerfed a little bit. I think the shields or the health now. The shields have been decreased on the A-Wing, which is hilarious to me. I feel like that's almost a nerf no one asked for, right? But sure, okay. The other one, they did make a post about it. They made that change because they can do that kind of stuff server side. And then the other one, I can't really confirm, but from my observations, like literally there was 2 posts within 3 days about Orange Squadron, like seal clubbing, like these terrible matches. Like, it would happen to us so often in the time. Like, so often we get terrible matches. But what I've noticed in the last 2 days, I think they dialed up. I think they've changed it because all of my matches have been fair, much closer to fair now. Like, I think they're good. The matchmaking all of a sudden, I don't know where this came from. Maybe it's just confirmation bias on my point. I can't say for sure. But as of February 12th here, at this time of recording, I've noticed an improvement to match gate making over the last 2 days.
Interesting. That's pretty cool.
Did you play tonight?
That's good to hear.
I would say my personal experience in the last couple of days has been mixed. I will get a match where I'm a level, 100 and I think I'm like 160 or something now. 160 among 40s and 50s, fighting another level 160 with 40s and 50s. So it's kind of even that way. But then other times I'm going up against a 5-stack where it's just like, oh shoot, it's the Cavern Angels. Goodbye this match. We're not gonna win this one solo queue. And that's one of the other things is it's a new operation, so. Like the MMR is kind of like changed, like everybody's kind of like stuck together. I was watching somebody else talk about this. I can't remember if it was you talking about this or not. Somebody was talking about this. It was Eckhart. It was X2. I was watching a video from X2. Charlie was talking about how Scalp Waka, because Scalp Waka and crew, because they ended up in Galactic Ace. They finished the season. When they were doing their placement matches, they would almost always end up against other really hard teams. And so they ended up losing a somewhat disproportionate amount of that. And so, like, Scalpwalker ended up down in, like, Hero 1 instead of, like, where he should have been start.
I feel like, that's a good point. I think that's true. But also the range, like, from people who went 10-0, they were only getting Hero 3. It wasn't, you know what I'm saying?
It's true.
The range wasn't that far off. It's not like he was getting Maverick or something. Like, he was not that far off from it, and you're going to go through those levels pretty quick when you're playing early. But it's a good point to consider that definitely they're factoring in your previous rank. I mean, the game was So for the first 3 days of the operation, it was good, like points wise. Then all of a sudden, when I got to Valiant, it just dead stopped. I was getting like I went on a run where I lost one game out of like 15, but I still hadn't made back the points from that one loss. Those wins, and then it was at that point, after a day or two of that I was like, I noticed this is the other thing. It might be the 5-stack searching specifically. Maybe it's not the solo queue, but in 5-stack searching, I really think that they've done something to dial it in, and that's why our 5-stacks aren't matching up against these lower levels teams now. That's what I think is happening, or we're just happen to be matching up with teams that aren't dodging us now. I don't know what to say which way it is for sure.
That might make more sense as they try to put more 5-stack versus 5-stacks, because that's definitely a negative experience to go against as a solo queue play. But who's to say? If they don't tell us anything, how are we supposed to know? And that's just, I think, the biggest thing is I would love some communication from the devs on anything that they would like to do. Like, are we going to see patches and updates to anything? Do they see an issue in the game that needs to be fixed? Do they think the defender needs to be nerfed? Do they think the B-wing needs to be buffed? Like, I would love to know what's going on. Are they continuing any kind of work on Squadrons, or is everything full bore into their future projects? Like, what's going on? I would love some info.
I would love that too. I mean, this week too, there's been a couple of engine management posts that have been kind of interesting. This is about boost skipping, and boost gasping, and also shield gasping. Both of these power management posts are dealing with the times when your engine can't recharge. It's trying to bypass those little areas. Basically, it's because there's an in-game design to limit how you can charge your engines, and you know what I mean, these dead drifts and all these different techniques are really kind of bypassing these systems, or these limits that the devs have kind of put on. So people are almost wondering, should they be fixed, right? And then also, I mean, will these kind of things be fixed? I kind of think I don't think they're gonna. I mean, like, we went over with Gio a lot of his ideas with, limiting, because that's kind of what he was talking about, people using like these different power management strategies to bypass those little what are they called, lockouts? No, like, what is it called? Like, just this. I'm struggling for the words here, guys.
It's just kind of like, I guess, the limitations.
Yes.
Like, it allows you to bypass the limited resource management that you should be having to undergo in order to actually succeed.
And that was the boost skipping rather was a Skywalker post, so definitely check that out if you haven't, on his YouTube page.
Go ahead and remind me of, like, because everybody comes up with these different terms. Like, I don't know what they mean by boost skipping, but I think I know what they're talking about when it comes to boost gasping, but I don't have the quickness of hands to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then it's the same idea kind of with the shields, like, and that kind of leads to another area when people have these sort of strategies where you just basically need to spam these different, power managements. It's kind of exactly like you're saying. It comes down to using your hands and you're not quick enough or whatever. This is where people on keyboards may have an advantage, not just because of advanced power management and those things, but because of some of the macros that people have been using lately. And I don't know if you saw this one. This is another big post that came out today. Radiant did a video showing what macros can actually do, and it's
ridiculous.
It's kind of concerning, actually, a little bit, and the possibilities a little.
I'm pretty sure, and this is just kind of like vague memory, and I can't call out a particular player who was doing it, but I feel like I saw a couple players using some macro type power management strats when we were watching the broadcast of Orange Invitational there, where they would have full bar in power, half bar in weapons, and then all of a sudden they'd have half bar in engines and a full power in shields, and I was like, you can't do that fast. That's not how that works.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's some sort of bypass system when they're doing that. It's not necessarily means that it's macros. That's the thing. It's unpoliceable. Like, I mean, Green Fox kind of had to look at some of this stuff for the Calcop. I don't know if you can speak to it there.
Yeah, macros are, they're interesting. Almost any kind of malicious macro is obviously banned by EA in the terms of use of the actual game itself, and there's language around that. And the EA anti-cheat system is going to pick up most stuff that would, like lag switch type stuff that would affect IPs or connections with other players or you and the server. But being able to double bind buttons into one single key or to do two presses as one press, or any number of joystick macro features that are going on with every single joystick that you get, any Cytec model, any Logitech thing you get, any kind of Thrustmaster deal comes with preset programs and whatnot. And even for my instance, my crappy T-Flight won't even play without VJoy and joystick grumbling. You gotta fix the dead zones and do all kinds of stuff. So
I mean, that comes with this game too. Like we were
a lot of
talking
these
about
things.
the support issues too, like of sticks in that they did resolve.
Yeah,
But what I think too is what he kind of showed is that a lot of people that I played with too have been like, we've been playing since launch. We've been working on our dead drifting, all our flying together. We've been developing these skills for now 6 months. So these new people could potentially come into the game. One person figures out the macros, so they don't really have to worry so much on what we've kind of just mastered from flying or doing now. They've kind of got that because they can. It's like what you're saying, seeing the power shift back and forth. They could set up a macro to effectively do that, so they just don't have to worry about doing that so much, other than hitting the button and then just controlling their flight. Like that's kind of what Radiant was showing too. He would just kind of just hit the drift button to do it back and forth and kind of be doing almost an auto evasion. Like, which
Oh my goodness.
So
well, the concern is lowering the skill gap in general and going from a medium skill player to a high skill movement player very quickly through artificial means or supposed artificial means. But again, this is like putting on a manual versus automatic transmission in an F1 race.
Yeah.
So if you want to have an automatic that's telling you what gear you're switching when you're whipping around corners at 150, like, so be it. At high level competitive play, you still have to get the ball in the end zone using coordinated teamwork and communication, and you got to fly from point A to point B and aim well. We're not talking about wall hacks here or like headshot hacks necessarily.
I think
this is just power finagling, and in some ways, like if it doesn't affect another player, and it's unpoliceable anyways, what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? In the long run.
Yeah.
And if it's not getting picked up by the EA anti-cheat and it's not being flagged by EA and they're not getting banned, then what are we going to do about this community besides just ball bust?
Yeah.
This is what we should do. But
it's not like I'm seeing it though. It's like we're getting stomped by a bunch of teams out there doing this. I don't think that's happening. I don't think anyone's really using this to that much. But what it did show in the post, a lot of people are using small macros for sure, like that. From my perspective, I'm not saying it's not cheating or whatever, but it's just like it's worse than the issues between a console controller player and a PC controller player. Like having, you know what I mean? It's like really, it's really kind of. I mean, you gotta self police yourself at a certain point, and it's like, come on, let's chill out a little bit with the macros here. Like, I mean, let's. I feel like that's been a great thing about this game. It's not Warzone where a bunch of cheats and different stuff and things that people are using. Let's keep it cool. This community is great. Let's keep it on ourselves to do the right thing for the most part.
And going back to that video you said you saw of mine, where I made the video about the stack of supports dropping nothing but turrets and making it impossible for solo queue squads. Like it was along those lines of I wanted to just. There's nothing I can personally do about it, but I want to definitely go out there and discourage people from doing it. Maybe there's not necessarily anything we can do about those macro kind of quote-unquote maybe cheats, but we could actively discourage people from doing it and talk about how it's really against the spirit of, competitive play in this game.
And I think so. I think because, the potential for maybe... So then one person, figures out the macros or whatever... They're still not, they still have 4 other people out there that they have to work with, and they kind of got to get them up to par. I guess it's possible then that they spread those macros around to the other players, and it's possible in a week's time, a month's time, 2 months' time, maybe, at some point it is possible that maybe something like that could dominate down the road. I don't seems pretty preposterous to me, and if the game will move on in other ways by that point, but I don't know. We'll see. It's a little hard to say. It was just something very interesting that came out, and it was something to consider the level that people are kind of using them in small and medium and maybe large ways.
Speaking of the game moving on, where do we see our meta shifting to? Because there's a whole lot of mixture going on in strategies. I feel like people are trying out new things. People are trying out different things. Torpedoes aren't as effective as they were before, but I still see people trying to run them. Like it's really interesting seeing the shift of meta in this game and where we might see people running here in the Calrissian Cup coming up in a couple weeks here.
So I think it depends. Yeah, like I think it's different. Like what the the highest level teams are doing and what you see like generally on the solo queue. I think on the solo queue you still see people trying out sloops in different ways, whereas I think in the more competitive games you're seeing a lot more of ion work and taking down shields and disabling. So I guess where is the game in meta to do that though? I mean, it's shifting. I guess like I think the Empire is still running a lot of defenders, but bombers are pretty powerful again.
Farming's still around too. People are definitely farming, especially for gas winning that last one. The farming's back on for sure.
Gotta farm. Get your pitchfork. Get the tractor out there. Time to farm, right? Put your Goliath on the tractor. Get some multi-locks out there.
That is one thing. Is I definitely feel like farming is less effective for the rebel side than it is for the Imperial. Or sorry, less effective to do as the Imperials, or I guess it's harder to do as the Imperials because of the shape of the squadrons.
I don't follow. What do you mean?
So what I mean by that, TIE fighters fly around in this T shape. If you target the middle one, the Goliath will kill all of them. X-wings fly around in this V shape. If you target, you can't target any single one of them. That's going to kill all of them.
Interesting.
A little bit spread out weird.
That is an interesting point. I feel like you always want to go for the lead one on the V. I think that's the strategy for it.
Generally the best one. But I hear people complaining about AI farming like it shouldn't be a thing in the game. Like, what's your opinion on that one?
Well, at the highest level, the guys are so survivable, if you don't AI farm, then flips probably won't happen. So it would kind of like games would be way more one push and or potential to be one push, because even with AI farming in the high level, you can see some teams really dominate and extend phases. So I feel like it's like one of those things. It's like people say that they think they want that, but they don't really want that. It's like even in the solo queue, you can actually win a game by AI farming just because it doesn't get done, and it can be actually. It's hard to flip if you're just AI farming and not get kills. It's hard to flip if you're just getting kills and not AI farming. Like you need to kind of do both of these things, and the AI farming can get missed as a solo queue player.
I think AI farming in general is part of the Star Wars starfighter mythos. Even in the OG trilogy, you'd always see them flying through a couple TIE fighters on their way to this objective or that objective, and it's always been there in the old X-wing versus TIE fighter games and Alliance and all that jazz. I don't see them taking it out, but it's the balance of that kind of stuff and how long it takes and how many points you get. I think is it can always be balanced a little bit, especially in high level competitive play into the SCL and Calrissian Cup and stuff like that.
Ooh, the SCL and the Cal Cup. Where do you see the future of Star Wars competitive going? Because we have these two kind of different. I guess those are like our big main series right now. Is we got Cal Cup, which is a tournament series to earn points, and then the SCL, which is more like the NFL of Squadrons. And I wish I could have gotten in. I didn't get a team in on the first season of SCL. Hopefully we'll get in on season 2.
But what I like about these two things is I see it sort of like almost like the premiership or like FIFA kind of, how there's like, okay, this is the league, right? But then there's also like the Champions League, which is like the Cal Cup. There's these like two, you know what I mean? So there's like the premiership season in these SCL, and then there's Cal Cup, and there's these two different things. So I think both of them, what they both do is right now, as you're saying, Motive isn't communicating with us. We don't know what's going to happen with the game update-wise. All we know is what we're doing with the game. The game is on the community. Like we kind of talked about this in December. We knew the dead drift, but the game went through growth then. But moving forward, the game is whatever we make it. It's basically a sandbox. Again, I've said this in posts. I don't mean to sound flippant. This game is only gonna, I see the next 9 months road I see for this game. Beyond that, I love this game. This is my favorite game. It's great. I play it every day. I enjoy playing with the people I play with. I genuinely enjoy the game. Win or lose, I hate losing. I'll definitely talk about the loss for about 20 minutes afterwards. But I love playing the game. So to everyone, if you love playing it, if you wanted to be here, enjoy the time every day. Don't worry about that stuff. Don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about this or macros or that or whatever really that much, right? Just enjoy the game. Play the game because it's fun, right? Like, that's why we play games. That's why I play this game. That's why I hope everyone plays, right?
Indeed.
So there's my long win.
We have our hopes for the future. Maybe matchmaking will be better, and as we get the matchmaking systems even out, maybe we'll get some new content. Fingers crossed. Hopefully.
Well, they
this game
you're
has
right.
always
It
been
definitely
about
is what
community
we
actions.
make of it.
Sorry, was that Green Fox?
I was just saying, this game has always been about community actions. Like, it's not the devs playing this thing 2 years after launch. And even back before we even knew we had custom matches coming, we knew we had to organize and put some stuff together because that's what was going to keep the thing alive. If we wanted to get even a couple of juicy things like the B-Wing and some other ships and stuff, we knew we had to kind of create that kind of something for people to do. And there's even people kicking around ideas about storylines where different battles mean you take over a different piece of a larger map, and you play the thing out like a board game if you wanted to, where different fleet battles and dogfights meant something towards a larger thing. So there's a lot of community kind of effort stuff going on in the background
that sounds
I think
really fun.
all games need. Yeah, man.
There's a lot of different, Discords, different communities kind of doing flight training from, Gray to Crates is starting a new flight school. I believe Rancor might have lots of, Cobra Tai, Imperial Navy, like all these different Discords are doing training all the time. There's lots of ways for new players to find the Discords. I'm concerned for the players who aren't necessarily going to Discords, and I do think, Meaty, this is where you do an amazing job, because I think a lot of people are kind of going to you, and you got to do your part, train them, help them out for sure too.
Because guess what? I'm one of those people. I don't Discord. I don't Reddit. I don't Discord, and so that's like, as a person who is on YouTube a lot looking at gaming content, I saw the lack of Squadron stuff on YouTube, and then I saw all this information on Reddit I didn't see on YouTube. I was like, this has got to go from here and beyond here. So let's make this transfer.
I love it, man. So what are we gonna see in the future from Meaty Yogurt?
Well, funny enough, the video that I just got done making is a lot about what we talked about today, kind of like the future of Squadrons, kind of the potential issues that we see facing, and maybe the hopes for the future that we have with our, fingers crossed. We'd love to see new maps or content of some kind. But in general, I'm kind of trying to touch base with the community a little bit more. I'm sure you guys, I don't know if you're on YouTube, Green Fox, but I've been doing a lot of these polls and trying to interact with the community and just kind of get their feedback on stuff. And that's honestly where some of my most recent video ideas have come from, like the talking about these issues to do with the Squadrons came from kind of like, I asked the community, like, hey, what do you guys think? What's going on in Squadrons? What do you think might be issues in the community? And I got answers and made a video of it. And so that's probably where it's going to go right now, is more of that, and then seeing what else I can make for content for these new players, because that's the thing, is I want to raise the tide for everybody. We need these people who don't know how to play the game as well as Scout Block it to start to learn those concepts, because if they can learn those concepts, then they can start to feel that growth, feel that success, and that's what I want to do. Is if I can help those people grow and succeed in this game, then the game will grow, and we're gonna have more players having good times.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
That's so great. Green Fox, do you have anything to add here before we wrap up?
Where can we find you besides YouTube? Are you doing any kind of Twitter, any kind of live streaming on Twitch or anything like that?
Give your socials a shout out.
So mostly YouTube, actually. So you got Meaty_Yogurt on YouTube, and I post content there and also stream Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. I have a TikTok account, Meaty Yogurt, on TikTok, but that's where you're going to find all my Apex Legends content. Even though my Apex content died on YouTube, it actually really succeeded over on TikTok. So, Apex Legends fans, come find me there.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, check that out,
That's
too.
awesome, man.
That's cool to hear that you got both going on. That's great, man. And I'm Timebomb is my YouTube channel. You know, follow the podcast is available on Spotify, on iTunes. Yes, iTunes. We're on iTunes. Give it, if you're there and you haven't checked it out, give it, like, what is the thing? Give it 5 is the number of stars that you should give it. And also, you need to write something. Be like, this is the Star Wars Squadrons podcast. 5 stars. You have to do something, I think. So do that, guys. That's important for some reason on iTunes. And like the pod here on YouTube and anywhere else you can. Thanks so much for checking this episode. Meaty, man. Thanks so much for coming on and talking Squadrons with us. We really appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, man. Good.
Thanks for the invitation, guys.
Thank you. So, thanks everyone for checking out this episode, and we will catch you guys next time on the Star Wars Squadrons podcast.
517 scanner.